Start your week with a triple shot of good vibes. This is the Project Joy podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Thanks for joining me. And now it's time for this week's story of joy. So it has been a very interesting week around here. And one of the things that has been really awesome for me is that I've really been tapping into creativity this week. You know, sometimes even me who I feel like a creative person in general, it's not like I'm on creatively all the time. A lot of the time, yes, but sometimes you just get this complete wave of creativity where you're creative in your personal life, you're creative in your business life, you're creative with all these different things. And sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming. It's like you get all of these ideas at one time and you're like, oh, what do I do with them? But I chalk it up, chalk it up to this week, I think, with being, I've talked about this before, how much of my personal astrology is in Aquarius, and we are having the Aquarius full moon today as we speak. And so anytime, you know, we see the current stars and planets align with where ours are in our personal natal chart the day that we were born, we see this sort of, you know, explosion of, we can see this sort of explosion of that particular energy or archetype, or feeling really good about things. And so while it has been a very up and down week, roller coaster of a week, it seems like for me and for a lot of people that I know, I am really basking in the joy that is creativity and having a lot of these ideas, because I'm learning. One of the things that I've had to learn through time is how to sort those ideas and prioritize them and decide, you know, just because you have an idea, that doesn't mean that you need to do something with it, or you have to, or even if you should do something with it. And so I'm really joyful this week about the amount of creativity that I'm experiencing in my life and all of the ideas that are coming to me. I'm so thankful and joyful for that, and excited to see what comes for them. We'll be back in just a minute for more of the Project Joy podcast. What's up, everybody? It's Jessica here from the Project Joy podcast, and I'm here today to tell you about something that has been completely life-changing for me. Are you tired of trying to get stuff done by yourself? Do you need accountability? Are you ready to finally, not just talk about it, but do it, declutter your space physically, mentally, emotionally, to live the best possible life you are here to live? Then you, my friend, need the BYOC, or Bring Your Own Clutter membership. This membership is run by my friend Heather Clark, and it has been life-changing for me. You need this. You need this in 2020. Join us. Go to declutterforchange.com. And now back to the podcast. Welcome back to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. I'm so excited to be here with you for another episode today. This is episode 29. And, you know, it's been a fact that throughout all of these different topics in 2020 in this Project Joy podcast, that I've talked about different places to find joy that have not always been a struggle, or it not always been easy for me to find the joy in those places. And that's such a huge reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because a lot of times we're so quick to judge a situation, or you know, find the negative in places, or find what's wrong with something, that we don't take the time to say, okay, what was the joy that was found in here? Or even to think about it before, which is kind of the point of this show, which is to, you know, see it as joy in every episode, is joy in something. And to think about it beforehand, you know, how can I find the joy here? So today we're talking about joy in warmth. Now, we're going to talk about this in two different areas, because obviously we think about physical warmth, but there's also another type of warmth too that we'll talk about as well. So, I think the reason why I've talked about this before, that when I sat down to plan this show for the year, I actually came up with all the topics for the entire year of 2020 at the end of last year. So I knew what I was going to talk about. And of course, I put joy and warmth in August because I live in the South and I knew that I was going to be really struggling to find the joy in actual physical warmth this time of year because it can be so hot in the South. And it's so funny because I've been asking all of these personal questions on my personal Facebook page, and just wanting to ask people random questions about their lives. Okay. And so anything from what's your favorite dinosaur to if you were a flower, what kind would you be? Things that people don't typically ask, and people on the receiving side don't think that anybody really cares usually to know those things, but I've been asking. And one of the things I asked is, would you rather be warm or cold? Now, I have to step back for a minute and say that I completely messed that up because I meant to say hot or cold, but I said warm and cold. So a lot of people would rather be warm than cold, but some people clarified on the post warm, yes, but not hot. And so next time I'm gonna actually think about that a little bit more before I put that out there. But so the I was surprised actually asking that how many people said they would rather be cold. Because anytime I say that, the people that typically respond to me are the ones that say, well, you're crazy because I would just so much rather be warm. But listen, here's my humor for the day. Okay. This is my reasoning. You can only take so much off before it's illegal, people. Okay. You can only take so much off before it's legal. You can put on as many layers as you want to, but you cannot go tip in most places. You cannot go to the store, stark naked and think that you're going to go buy groceries. You're just not going to do that if you're hot. Okay. And so, so anyway, I've always been, and you'll have to excuse me if you can hear something in the background because my Alexa is talking. It talks and reminds the kids to do things. So anyway, um, it's one of those things where I'm always a very hot natured person. I'm warm anyway, and so when it's hot outside, I tend to get a little whiny and a little bratty, and I'm like, listen, I hate this. It's horrible. And so finding the joy in actual physical warmth for me is, I thought to myself, not something that I typically find joy in. However, I realized, and someone else had said this too, on that post that I made, that I enjoy being cold sometimes so that I can warm up. Isn't that interesting? And so, but I still don't like to be hot. I still don't like to be hot. If I find myself getting too hot, I would so much rather be cold. But anyway, that's the whole idea of physical warmth. So I'm curious how many of you uh, might be like me and find some issues with being too warm physically in the summertime, or maybe you're grateful for the warmth and you would so much rather be warm all year round. Let me know. Let me know if you can find the joy in that physical warmth. The other part of warmth is warmth in enthusiasm and affection or kindness, and it also can be an intensity of emotion. And so this other definition of warmth I really love right now because I so think that the world can use a little bit more warmth. I think that we can use a huge amount of warmth on social media, to be honest with you. I started doing a couple days ago I decided that for the remaining 153 days of 2020 that I was going to do a daily video on my Facebook page. And the reason I'm doing this is because this show is really well planned out. And the Breakthrough Show is not only well planned out, but it's also edited, and there's lots of different things that I can do to perfect it, if you will. Is it a perfect show? No, but it's very different than just randomly going live. And so I wanted to do something that wasn't going to put I wasn't going to put a whole lot of thought into. It was just something I'm just going to do every day, and if I can't find something to talk about, I'm going to wing it. And really tone my spontaneity muscle, if you will. And so the first day, the first day I touched on a very hot topic, which is my absolute loathing of the abomination that is the thumbs up emoji. And so I think you can tell by my tone there that I'm not playing around here, people. I'm not playing around. See, it's not one of those things where honestly, like, it's one of those things that is funny, not funny kind of thing for me. And I explained many reasons. I'm not gonna get into a whole lot of that right now. But my whole point of this is that one of the things that I brought up in that video is how fast paced social media has gotten, how fast paced our lives have gotten. And social media really adds to that because, one of the examples I gave is that if someone came up to you in person and said, my grandmother passed away. I'm so sad. I'm really like having a hard time going through this. You would never in a million years just thumbs up in their face and walk away. You would never do that. At least most people that I know would not do that. And if they would do that, I made it very clear. I'm like, you're not the kind of person that I want in my life, in my circle, because I don't, that's no, we don't do that. We don't do that here, as I say. But you would never do that. And so social media has really, in my opinion, we've lost a lot of the warmth. And that's where my sort of loathing of the thumbs up emoji comes from, because that shows no warmth at all. There's no conversation there. There's not even, at least the heart emoji, the cares emoji, the sad emoji, the angry emoji, the surprised emoji, at least that's showing some kind of warmth and emotion, as opposed to just thumbs up. And so that warmth is something that we are desperately missing on social media in 2020, as so many opinions and all of that erupt from all of these hot topics that are happening in our world right now, between the virus and all. There's so many different subtopics of that. There's the idea of schooling. We're talking about diet. We're talking about race. We're talking about all of the politics. Oh my gosh, all of these different topics where we could really stand to have a little warmth behind what we're trying to present in the world. And I think that if we focus on putting some warmth behind what we say, that affection, that kindness, yes, it can come with enthusiasm and intense emotion. But if we put that warmth there, then I think we'll really reach so much better of a level of understanding of ourselves and of other people. We'll be back in just a minute for more of the Project Joy podcast. What's up, everyone? It's Jessica here, your host of the Project Joy podcast and, of course, the Breakthrough Show. I want to take a moment and thank all of our supporters here at the show. With your financial support, we are able to expand the show and reach more people with the hopes of inspiring our audience members to change their lives for the better and know they are supported during times of breakthrough.
We welcome our one-time contributions to our show by sending a PayPal to business@thebreakthroughshow.com, or you can join us at patreon.com/thebreakthroughshow, where you'll be rewarded for your regular contribution with things like our exclusive community, Soul Connection Collective, merchandise discounts, fun shoutouts on the show, and more. On behalf of everyone here at The Breakthrough Show and its network, we thank you for your generous support. And now back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. Up next week on the podcast, we are talking about joy in travel. Now, this is going to be a really interesting topic for me because I have not actually traveled very far I've traveled most of the United States and I've been to Canada, but haven't traveled outside of North America. But there's so much that I want to talk about with this idea of traveling and joy and finding joy in new places and exploration and all those beautiful things that come with travel, like trying new things and meeting new people. And I'm really excited to jump into that topic with you next week on the Project Joy podcast. Until next week, guys, please take a moment to rate, subscribe, comment, and share where available, and make joy a priority in your life today and every day. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. We'll see you again next Monday and every Monday for another episode to start your week off right.